Hello and welcome to a special Devil's Advocate interview with the Army Chief General Vijay Kumar Singh. Army Chief, let's start with what the press are calling the Adarsh housing scam. 2 former chiefs, a former vice chief, 3 former lieutenant generals, 3 major generals, 5 brigadiers, in fact 23 army officers in all. Are you saddened by these revelations?
Karan, I'm extremely saddened. And I think as an institution, we have taken a beating. See, in a 1.3 million army, this might be a very, very minuscule percentage. But any incident which affects the hierarchy in the army, it is a sad thing. Because it also tries to break a bonding that we have with our men, who also read newspapers, who also see the TV serials and TV news. So it's painful, to say the least.
From the outside, one of the most disillusioning parts of this is that it appears that officers at the very top connived to take benefits that were meant for Kargil widows or veterans who served in Kargil. If that is proven to be the case, what impact will it have on your soldiers and officers?
It is, I think it will have a very great amount of psychological impact. And the second part, which is even more larger, is that when people look at it, and next time we have cases like this, in fact we have martyrs every day. People are in operations every day in J&K and Northeast. People are going to say that anybody who is asking for something for the martyr and his family is probably looking for personal gains. And that is the saddest part of this episode.
You said that the army has taken a beating. This is a serious damage to your reputation.
It is. I think as an organization which was known for its integrity, known for its uprightness, any such thing affects us. And it will take us time to get out of it. But nevertheless, I think the law will take its own course. It is not that the large part of the army is affected. It is a very small percentage, something which we can always cut out, take action as decided by the ministry, and I think we'll overcome it.
You've ordered an inquiry. When do you hope that inquiry will give its report to you?
See, this is an issue which is multidimensional. There are various kinds of people who are part of that society, and it will take us quite some time to first find out our own people's culpability in it. What the documents say, what are the other records, what were the estate records, defense estates records, how did the whole thing go haywire. And I think we will depend on the ministry to take a certain amount of action in ordering a different type of inquiry. We will look at our own things.
Now, 2 of your predecessors, 2 former army chiefs are involved, a former vice chief is involved, several generals, major generals, brigadiers. Will all the people be thoroughly inquired into, or will you duck it because army chiefs are involved as well?
No. So far as the army inquiry is concerned, we will be looking at where did things go wrong. I am not looking at the conduct of any one of these people, why they did it, who was involved, what were the motives, genuine or otherwise. I'm not really concerned. What I want to know is where did we as organization go wrong and who was responsible for it.
And when you do that, will you excuse people because they were army chiefs, or will you look into everyone's behavior equally and thoroughly?
We will look at everything.
So no special favors for anyone?
None.
No concern for the fact that someone may have been an army chief?
Army is one body. It's one family. We don't make deviations for anybody.
And when you finish this inquiry, will you make it public so that people feel the army has been transparent?
Of course. I think last couple of months we have become absolutely transparent. We don't hide. Why should we hide? If there is something wrong, we will tell people that this is what went wrong. This, maybe it will also redeem us, because there might be culpability of some people who were not in uniform.
So you believe the honor of the army depends on a thorough inquiry and then making it transparently public so that the country knows that there are no secrets that have been hidden.
Absolutely. I've got no doubts in it.
Now, two of your predecessors, General Malik, a former Army chief, Admiral Prakash, a former Navy chief, have publicly said that the three service chiefs who have flats in the Adarsh housing scam should, in the interest of the services they headed, themselves make a public statement of their association with Adarsh. Would you endorse that?
See, they have made a statement. I'm quite sure the two chiefs would have also heard it, and I'll leave it to them. I'll not go into saying whether I endorse or not. Both the gentlemen whom you mentioned are respected. They are people who have made a statement which is very good, and I'm quite sure things will happen the way they want.
Unfortunately, the situation today has gone beyond the Adarsh housing scam. Your immediate predecessor is now alleged to have written letters when he was army chief to two chief ministers requesting personal favors. MPs have raised questions about his assets, claiming that perhaps he has more than he can afford. Has a stain been cast on the office that you hold, on the office of the army chief?
It has. And that is the sad part. You know, the chief's office is an institution, and anything coming against it is actually hurting the institution in the army. It is something which is revered in the army. It is something which is considered something far above all such things. Yes, anything that is thrown at the office of the chief hurts it, and it hurts you here.
And anything that hurts the office of the chief hurts the institution of the army, and all your 1 million Jawans today must feel that pain and
Yes.
perhaps even a sense of shame.
They do.
You would use the word shame.
I think so, because nobody knows what the truth is. But when it is played out this way, obviously people will start saying there is something wrong. Here is a man whom we trusted. Here is a person in whom we had faith. Here is a person on whose orders we were ready to go to battle. It will. I think it will hurt deeply.
General Singh, unfortunately, scams are not new. 6 months ago, the Sukhna land scam was on the front pages. As Eastern Army Commander, you were involved in bringing that to the surface. If you look at the newspapers, it seems that in the last 2 years, there have been a variety of scams that have been written about. The Rani Ket War Memorial and Museum, the Rajasthan arms scam, the Sikkim land scam, supplies for UN troops, Chandi Mandir medicine case. Is this a bigger problem than we realize?
See, what happens is that there are some black sheep. I'll put it that way. It is not something which is widespread. It is not something which is institutional. It is not something where large number of people are involved. It is few individuals who start a thing like this. And problem comes up when people just above them or just below them close their eyes and don't stand up to what is wrong. Today we are telling people, look here, stand up if you feel there is something wrong. And I assure my officers and my men, if they stand up and say what is wrong, the system is such which will ensure that nothing goes wrong with it.
So you're actually saying to officers in the army today that if you discover someone senior or junior is doing something wrong, stand up,
Absolutely.
report it, the system will support you.
Absolutely. And that is the way it should be.
Earlier this year, India Today magazine did an assessment, and it came to the conclusion that since 2001, over 20 officers of brigadier rank and above had been indicted for corruption. And in the last 4 years, the magazine says, 10 of them are generals. Is this becoming a problem that's increasing day by day?
No, I think what is happening is, army, unlike any other institution in the country, is the one who finds fault amongst its people. It gets hold of them, punishes them, and tells the public, here it is. We have cleaned up our stables. So it appears that there is a large number. I mean, take your mind back to Thalka. How many people got punished? It is those people who are uniform. because the army took action against them. So it is not that the army is allowing things to go haywire, but what is certainly happening is that more cases come to notice because I think the transparency is increased.
Now you come from an army family, you are in fact the third generation officer in your family. You know perhaps better than most that army families are proud of the fact that the defense services is incorruptible. They say that there is a moral difference between soldiers and officers and politicians and civil servants. But today, is that distinction, that difference becoming eroded?
I don't think so. And the values remain the same. The way we cherish these values also remain the same. You go and see the motivational level when boys pass out and girls pass out from OTA and IMA and NDA. They have tremendous amount of value in them. Somewhere somebody goes slightly off. I don't think that should mean that these values are going down.
As Army Chief, how will you ensure that this doesn't happen again?
It all stems from your personal example. You have to stand up for what is right. You have to tell people, look here, this is how things have to be done, and you make people follow that. And that is how I have seen the army growing. I have seen how this army has functioned in my last 40 years and earlier as a child in an army family. I think those are the values that one has to cherish.
So in a sense, this is a personal mission of General V K Singh to set an example that ensures that the highest values of the army are followed all the time.
I think it is the personal mission for every officer in the army, that we ensure that our values that we learned in IMA, in the great motto of Chatwood, remains practical, remains in our heart, and remains uppermost in our head.
You mentioned the great motto of Chetwood, to put the honor of the country first and every time.
Yes.
That is what you're going to dedicate yourself to do.
Absolutely.
And none of the guilty, when guilt is established, will go unpunished.
None.
No matter how senior, they will be punished if guilty.
Absolutely. It has always happened that way.
Let's take a break at that point. I want to come back and talk to you about the security situation India confronts and how you as Army Chief assess the threats. That's in a moment's time. See you after the break. Welcome back to Devil's Advocate with the Army Chief, General Vijay Kumar Singh. Army Chief, let's talk about the current security situation facing the country. Air Chief Marshal Naik has compared it to a volcano, which suggests that it's unpredictable and it could erupt at any time. Would you accept that?
See, I don't want to comment on what my colleague has said. All that I would say is, any country which has unsettled borders, which has borders which are undemarcated or there are problems on the borders, the security situation in the overall calculus remains fragile. It remains a cause of concern, and that is what it is.
So our security scenario is fragile and a cause of concern.
Yes, it is.
Let's explore that. First, Pakistan. At the moment, the country faces serious challenges: economic, political, rising internal terrorism. What impact will the situation in Pakistan have on India? What sort of threat does the situation in Pakistan pose to India?
The major problem is that the terrorist infrastructure is intact. We have the chief there saying that the whole army is India-centric. And when you combine these with what you have said just now, means the following, that the proxy war will carry on. They will keep looking for an alibi to do various things in India, and hence it is a serious concern to us.
Now, as you mentioned, General Kayani has repeatedly said that his army is India-centric. In that context, how do you view the decision of the American government to give Pakistan over $2 billion of military equipment?
Karan, historically, all aid that has ever come to Pakistan, for whatever purposes, right from Cento days, despite the assurances, have been used against India. We have credible inputs to say that out of this assistance that is coming for terror funds, for training against terror, for coalition support, etc., etc., fair amount is being funneled in upgrading the capability which can be used against us.
Now, the Air Force has gone on record to say that they are concerned that the Pakistan Air Force is slowly but steadily reducing the capability gap with India. As Army Chief, do you have similar concerns about the Pakistan Army?
See, any army will upgrade, any army will imbibe greater technology that is available. Pakistan is doing the same, we are doing the same. I am not really much concerned about where they have gone at the moment. What I am concerned most is that I should be able to meet the type of threat that comes up. And let me assure you, we are prepared to meet any challenge that is there.
Let's come to China. Just recently at the Combined Commanders Conference, the Defense Minister said China is showing an increasing assertiveness. The Times of India claims that last summer in Ladakh, you had a 100% increase in standoffs between Chinese and Indian patrols. And now, as you know, China is rapidly improving its infrastructure in Arunachal Pradesh. In these circumstances, how do you view the threat from China?
See, China is doing great amount of infrastructural development, which it says that it is doing for the locals in that area. No bones about it, no cribs about it. But our problem is that we are not very sure about the intentions. And when intentions change, with this capability, things can go wrong. And that is what is of concern. So where the borders are concerned, let me tell you, I think they're peaceful to a certain extent. These standoffs are within the known parameters. There is nothing which is going astray, and they are being governed by the CBMs which are already in place, and the mechanism between both the countries to take care of these.
But you have doubts of Chinese intentions. That's your concern.
That's a question mark. I'll put it that way.
One of our predecessors, General Shankar Roy Chaudhary, writing in the Asian Age on the 19th of October, says that the present Sino-Indian equation is almost irresistibly reminiscent of the run-up to the Sino-Indian border war of 62. And then he adds, 1962 redux is slowly grinding into gear again. Do you share that concern?
See, I think he has written from the perspective of what the signages are available. I don't see so many signages out there. I don't see the type of build-ups that took place. Yes, events in terms of claims, events in terms of how development is taking place on the other side, how the development is slower on our side, may lead somebody to this type of a conclusion. Things are better than what they were, and there is going to be no 1962. Never.
That is a categoric promise you make to the people of India.
Absolutely. With full conviction.
One of the things that perhaps concerns people is the question, if you have to fight a two-front war, can you do so comfortably?
See, when you look at threats and how you counter threats, it's not just military. It's political, diplomatic, economic, and military. All these have to mesh in how you tackle. We are capable of meeting any threat that comes to the country, whether it is on one side, whether it is on two sides, that the time will decide. But I'm quite sure our political, diplomatic initiatives will be able to mesh in with what we want to do militarily and achieve the right type of a result that is required by the nation.
General V K Singh, a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.